Yeah.
I really thought the cat with the waffle on the head is incredibly cute.
All right, and we have been blessed by the gods from Blizzard up high, giving us a great interview with two lovely guests. Senior game designer, lover of Resto Shaman, famed slayer of Mythic Gallywix. We have the senior game producer, George VELEV, and certainly last but not least, we have the lead quest designer, the lover of Hallowfall, and the Super Bloom creator, Stephanie YOON. Welcome, guys. How's your guys' day been so far?
Better now after that.
Incredible.
Any other
Thanks for
information that
having
you
us.
guys want the audience to know about your guys' self?
I love kimchi. I don't know. That's about it.
I
But
also
he
love
covered everything
kimchi.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm Korean, so I mean, I think that's for granted.
That's valid.
It's awesome.
All right, so let's jump into some of the questions. So I have the first question here, and I just wanted to know, like, what lessons did you guys learn with the puzzling cartel chips in Season 2? Are we going to potentially see them returning in Season 3?
We got a lot of early feedback around Mythic Plus and how players who engage in Mythic Plus content wanted to interact with the cartel chip system. We feel like we acted pretty quickly on it. In terms of it coming back for future updates, it's not something we can really comment on this time. However, we've seen that players are really receptive to, Dinar-esque systems, so it's not off the table.
Also, in addition to that, like the turbo boost gearing, that seemed like that was pretty well received by the community just as at large. Is there any changes like potentially planned for turbo boost, or maybe that also returning?
Similar to the puzzling cartel chip system, we're very happy with how it turned out. But in terms of future updates outside of the scope of Ghost of Koresh, not something we can really sort of tease right now. Though I wish we could. But
Cool. So one thing I wanted to ask is, so in Dragonflight, you guys introduced the new talent tree system, gave a ton more player options. It got expanded again in the War Within with the new hero talents. One thing that Ian Hazzikostas mentioned earlier before the War Within was that it did seem to be there was a little bit of defensive creep in the game now that there was more and more options and so many different nodes and talents you could select. Nothing was planned then, but he did mention it was very difficult to threaten the player without that sort of high bursty damage to force out you to use your defensives. Do you guys still think that this defensive creep exists, and are there plans to sort of make changes to the trees in the future?
it's a good question. Yeah, it definitely exists in some forms. There is no doubt that with the talent system in Dragonflight, we've added, more hybrid utility, more defensive, and more self-healing tools with damage dealers, and also a little bit through hero talents as well for the War Within. We did so intentionally. There's a lot of value in, giving players agency in world content and especially delves for DPS to be able to manage their own survival. That being said, we know it comes at a cost, especially when it comes to encounter design and how healers feel. We want to make sure that we're sort of servicing both groups at the same time when possible. We don't have any plans for, disarming defensives, right now in the beginning of the season. We usually want to do, larger changes like this on an expansion boundary, where we give it a lot of time to sort of breathe and iterate, get feedback, and make sure we're making the right changes. To answer your question, it's always on our minds, and something we discuss quite a bit. But in terms of the immediacy, we don't have any plans to do any sort of defensive pruning.
Cool. And on the subject of how tanks and healers feel too, I think there's kind of a stigma around meta classes, but actually I feel like balance in World of Warcraft is so crazy good right now, considering how many specs there are in the game. But I do feel like the fact that there are fewer players, at least in the dungeon groups, playing tanks and healers, it does sort of seem like there's a bottleneck there, and it's harder to find groups if you're not a meta spec. So is there any thought into like how to get more people playing tanks and healers in dungeons specifically?
Well, first of all, thank you for saying that balance is in a good spot. That's always reassuring to hear. To your question regarding making tanks and healers feel better in, instance content, there really isn't a great silver bullet fix for this, as ultimately a lot of the responsibility for success in that content lies on the tanks and healers. It's up to the tank to figure out the correct routes or the pull speed or what spells and abilities are most dangerous or would use the defensive. Same on the healer side. We're cognizant of it, and we're looking to make some changes where we can, because we don't want people to feel like they're, more stress than they should be because of a specific role. We do look to incentivize it via rewards, but we know that we could do a little bit better in some respects. We are looking to make some adjustments to tanks in some aspects of the game for the upcoming season. For PvP specifically, we're making tanks feel like they're more impactful when they have to hold the flag instead of relying on like damage healers. We also made a hotfix, I believe, late in season 2 or middle season 2, depending on what you consider late, to buff threat. And that's certainly a tool in our toolbox for when it comes to making tanks feel a little bit more empowered in Mythic Plus.
Alrighty. I wanted to ask a couple questions about the questing here. So 11.2 is trying something new with putting the story and quests of the Eco Dome Aldani dungeon after the raid. How did that change how the story surrounding the dungeon was told? And do you actually see any issues with the dungeon releasing at the same time as the raid and its story?
Yeah, it's definitely something that is new to us, and sort of we're really excited to see how the players react to this cadence. The idea honestly came just from a story forward perspective when we were in the writers' room with the creative leadership talking about, hey, what do we want to do with the Ghost of Koresh? What are the stories we want to tell? There was a moment that we were saying, okay, well, this is the story that we want to do with the raid. That should be the culmination of the Ghost of Koresh. But what about the stuff that we want to do with the dungeon? And somebody just said, like, what if the dungeon came after the raid? Like this revolutionary thought. And it definitely does have additional challenges. Like you mentioned, dungeon is available, and it's easier for players to get into than the raid. So it's possible that players will do the dungeon for the first time before the raid. The epilogue content and the story tie-ins to that are actually only viewable if you are on the epilogue. So even if you did the dungeon, you won't be spoiled as to the ending of the Ghost of Koresh. But yeah, design is an iterative process, and we're really looking forward to seeing how the fans and the players sort of like appreciate this style of storytelling, and then we'll take notes for the next time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, spoilers is like a huge deal to a lot of people, so I'm glad that you guys are taking care of that. Kind of on the topic of spoilers, though, with how available the raid ending cinematic is these days, are there any plans to open story mode earlier, such as even like 24 hours after the raid opens, so players can more easily see it themselves and not get spoiled?
I think that this is a hot topic internally quite often whenever it comes through. We're always looking at the feedback and sort of trying to leverage what is best out of what we want to accomplish with the schedule and the sort of pains that the players have to go through. Right now, I don't have anything to announce about sort of like any changes to story mode cadence. So we will be continuing as we have in the past.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
So pivoting a little bit to, a little bit more raid-focused questions, we've seen a discussion about like disarmaments related towards add-ons in the future of the game. And personally, having done all the raid testing, it seems like pretty few of the bosses actually have strict weak aura requirements or add-on requirements. Is this like a deliberate choice, trying to get all the mechanics into place where these advanced computational weak auras aren't really needed? Also, in addition to that, is there any update as to when add-ons are going to be removed from in-game content, or is there nothing really about that yet?
Well, first of all, I'm really happy to hear and glad to hear that as people are doing PTR content, they don't feel like weak auras are as required as previous seasons. That's great. We always consider it a success when players feel like they have the great shot at killing bosses without external tools like add-ons. I wouldn't say our philosophy has really changed dramatically moving from 11.1 to 11.2, but we are working on future updates where we are having internal discussions on philosophy and things of that light, which has put a bit of a spotlight on how add-ons work in World of Warcraft and how they can impact content like encounters and combat. In terms of an update for when add-ons will be updated for how removed or updated or disarmed in any sort of capacity, nothing to share right now. For Ghost of Koresh, we don't expect any sort of major changes currently with that sort of part of the game.
Makes sense. In addition to that, I think there was a lot of discussion after Liberation of Undermine talking about its difficulty relative to Nerebar Palace. I know Gallywix got a lot of discussion relative to Queen Ansarek, just difficulty. Should the expectation of people who are predominantly doing these mythic encounters, what's kind of the expectation in terms of difficulty? Is it supposed to be more Gallywix-esque? Is it supposed to be more Ansarek-esque? Is there any kind of benchmark that you guys are going for in that regard?
I'm not really sure we can think of the difficulty as, Gallywix-esque or Ansarek-esque. Our tuning focus for 11.2 is to make sure that each boss feels like an approachable challenge after the last. Players shouldn't really feel like they don't have a shot at the next boss right after they kill the previous one. In practice, we hope this is a bit of a smoother curve than it was in 11.1 and a much smoother curve than it was with sort of the 4-4 split in the Ansarek tier that you mentioned. So yeah, overall hoping for more of a smoother difficulty curve going from the beginning all the way to the end.
Awesome, cool. Well, from moving on from Raid and then into M+, wouldn't be a bench interview without some deep M+ questions. So I feel like this season and this expansion in general, you guys have made a lot of big changes to M+, and the dungeons are really getting, I don't want to say simple because they're very challenging, but more accessible for solo players pushing in high M+. You don't necessarily need a team playing together all the time, and we're seeing tons and tons more people just in the group finder trying to test their abilities, doing 15s, 16s, moving up. You guys introduced resilient keys. It still feels a little weird because you sort of join keys only because they're score for you, and you're kind of just waiting around an LFG until you can get into a key that score. And then once you end up upgrading your key, you're kind of incentivized to just, drop that group and jump in and try and find slightly better players. Are there any ideas or plans, thoughts about either trying to encourage groups to stick together more, or do you guys like the sort of solo play? And have you thought about maybe changing Resilient? A lot of people have suggested Resilient +1, or maybe even, I don't know, like a solo queue M+ system.
That sounds really cool. In terms of, in the immediacy, we don't really have anything sort of new to share with how we're approaching Mythic Plus grouping. That being said, what you mentioned previously about keeping people together, we have been discussing ways to connect like-minded players across all types of content. But the goal for high-end Mythic Plus, is going to demand more coordination. Deeper you go, that's expected. And our goal is to sort of provide tools that help players find others that they enjoy playing with. So nothing really new to share at this time, but certainly back of our mind as we approach future seasons and future content updates. In terms of updates to Resilient Keystones, that sounds really cool. As of right now, we're not looking to make any changes to that feature.
Right on. Good. And one more question I had too about sort of the let's call it high-end gameplay. We introduced the 1-button rotation this patch, and we're going to see the first raid tier come out with it available. It's very variant, right? And obviously some specs are more complicated. It works better with other specs than certain ones. In some specs, you could even technically go in, even if you're somebody who's raiding at a heroic or maybe even mythic level, use the 1-button rotation and see a damage gain. I'm interested how you guys have seen the 1-button rotation working out, and is there any tuning or goals in the system or things that you want to change as current?
Yeah. I love this question. We've received, overwhelmingly positive feedback about the feature from all sorts of audiences. In terms of hitting our goals, yeah, absolutely. We're seeing players use it for things like leveling, learning rotations for the first time, or even as an accessibility tool so they can experience new content in the game for the first time. In terms of hitting like tuning goals, we're monitoring data on our end, so how things are shaping up, and we're pretty much aligned with our intentions here, and we're happy with the current penalty that's in place. That is to say, it's certainly possible we will adjust it for the future. It just released last update near the end of the season, so things are on the table if we need to make the throughput of it go up and down. But I, for one, am very interested to see how it plays out when it comes to things like heroic rating or even normal rating. But yeah, options are certainly available to us if we want to sort of make things, better or worse. But it's going to come down to how things play out.
Awesome, cool, thank you.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about Kresh here. So we've had skywriting for 2 expansions now, and Kresh kind of feels like the first zone that is fundamentally built around flight, with no choice but to soar across, the different eyelids and stuff like that. How did that affect quest flow and guiding players in the right direction?
I feel like skywriting is like the genie in the bottle that we've released, and it has fundamentally changed how people traverse across the world, right? One of the things that we did one of the first things we had to do when we brought Tazavesh out from, the Veiled Market Mega Dungeon to Koresh was like, cover up all the ceilings, cover up all the roofs, because that's things that we didn't have to worry about when it was just a dungeon.
Right.
And I think that, the addition of skywriting from the very beginning adds challenges, but also like so much allows us to do so much more. I think the best use of it within a campaign still in my head, like the one that I hold as like the pinnacle, is there's a moment where in Azure Span where you're basically just traveling across the entire zone to catch up to the next one, and that felt amazing because you just go up to the highest point in the zone and just fly across. And one of the things that I notice we do more with skywriting being available from the very beginning is just like being unafraid to travel across large distances just because we can, and we can expect that players are able to. There's so much in Koresh that is designed to be for skywriting, like you mentioned, and I really hope that we're able to sort of leverage moments best when players are able to skyride, and when players aren't able to skyride, that the players really appreciate.
Yeah, I think skywriting has been a massive success. So I'm glad it's out of the game. It's just fun just flying around. So that's awesome. Another question here. So in 1107, we kind of had a dedicated patch leading to Undermine, reintroducing to Orwena, Gallywix, and Goblin cartels. But we didn't really see the same kind of lead up and introduction to Koresh and the Ethereals. What goes into deciding which patches need prologue stories versus not?
This might sound like a cop-out answer. It honestly comes case by case situation. The lead up to Undermined worked out really well that way, and we chose a different path with Ghost of Koresh. Like we seeded in hints from all the way back in, I think I want to say like 1027 when we're talking to Illyria and Locust Walker, and sort of like the ending cinematic of Undermine. We heavily hinted at where we're headed, and we really wanted to leverage the lore walking feature to sort of like hint at where players were going to Ghost of Koresh, but also prime them for all the like lore background that players would be well armed with when they were coming to Ghost of Koresh. And I think that I think players enjoy when we give them different ways to approach similar content, and we're always taking feedback, and we're always looking at, hey, did this work? Do we need a prologue chapter for each of these major content updates? Like, was something missing in Ghost of Koresh? Like, I'm really excited to look at the data. Wow, I can't believe I just said excited to look at the data, and see how players enjoy Ghost of Koresh and like sort of like the lead up to it as well.
That's awesome. Thank you.
So pivoting a little bit to tier sets, we've seen some pretty large changes with the tier sets from Season 2 moving into Season 3, where now they're based around your hero talent selection, and they went from kind of more passive ones to very, very impactful ones, depending on what hero talent or what specialization you're playing. What do you guys think the right path is for these kind of tier sets moving forward? Are they supposed to be something that's this super impactful, game-warping, rotation-changing thing, or maybe is it supposed to be something that's a bit more passive, or is it just like on a tier-by-tier basis?
I'm happy to answer this, but I'm curious what your preference is first.
I personally prefer the more impactful one. I think that it kind of gives me nice rotational changes on a tier-by-tier basis, but I've seen, a decent amount of feedback that's like, it's too much. It kind of gives me overstimulation, but personally, I prefer it. Impactful one.
I'm a similar way. I prefer it to be impactful. It's something to look forward to every tier when you get your 4th set and you feel super powerful.
Exactly.
I feel like when they're really impactful, it's hard though, because let's say you have a crazy impactful tier set on Season 1, and then it's Season 2, and it's like, well, you have sort of either that creep, or you end up really disappointed, or you have problems where you might want to run two piece because the last tier bonus was so good. So while I definitely agree that it feels good to have impactful tier sets, it does kind of feel like there's a little bit of intentionality of like, that's not a word. The first season's a little bit basic, and then it kind of ramps up as the expansion goes on. Do you guys do that?
I mean, y'all answered the question by yourselves, but yeah, in terms of how we treat seasonal set bonuses, talking about Season 3 specifically, part of why we made Season 3 set bonuses maybe a little bit more impactful or a little bit more complicated is because we heard from a lot of players that Season 2 set bonuses felt a little bit too passive. In terms of, how do we handle philosophy for seasonal set bonuses, it really depends on feedback and how we're sort of looking to sort of shape the season. Generally, though, and the thing we've seen in sort of the past couple of expansions, we do want to make the later tier sets a little bit spicier, a little bit more impactful, since by the time you enter the 3rd or 4th season of an expansion, depending on which expansion you're talking about, players are used to playing with the new systems that we've added at the expansion launch. So, for example, Dragonflight, we had a bunch of talent revamp, or the set bonuses were quite simple at the beginning, then they got more complicated. For the War Within, we had a hero talents, and now we're doing hero talent themed tier sets. And we find that over the course of the seasons, people learn their systems, and we can push it a little bit more and see exactly how much we can add via set bonuses. That being said, I do agree with majority of y'all. I'm really looking forward to having more impactful set bonuses for Season 3 personally, and something that we like doing on our end quite a bit is it gives us additional tuning knob to leverage when we do our live tuning passes. If there's a hero talent tree that's a little bit too powerful or too potent, we can always tune down the set bonus as well. So overall, I'm really curious how they play out. They're certainly a lot more powerful and a lot more impactful than previous seasons, and I think it'll be quite an interesting experiment.
Thank you.
You do a quick follow up here. Could we ever see an active tier set bonus, like a new ability?
That sounds cool. There certainly isn't precedent for that. I don't think we've ever done a set bonus that gives you an active. However, we're always looking to iterate and design new stuff. So I'll certainly take that back to the team. I can't make any promises though.
Cool. Works for me.
On the topic of tier sets too, not only do we have the 4 tier pieces that we're having every season, but we have the embellishments that were introduced in Dragonflight, which takes up 2 pieces. Now we have the Rishi wraps and the boots. I'm noticing sort of a pattern where a lot of these items sort of feel like it's a required slot and you don't actually have that many, specific things other than jewelry and trinkets that you're trying to farm from either the dungeons or the raid. Is this a plan for your guys' gearing? Do you like the way it's shaped up? Or I guess I'm just interested in your thoughts on this one.
Yeah, we've heard this feedback quite a lot. We don't have any immediate sort of plans to share with how we'll be changing, core item progression in terms of embellishments or tier sets. But to the previous point, like we always want to experiment and see what fits. Some people may find that they totally want to have all these tiers or slots be occupied by existing items. Some people don't want that. It's really finding a good balance between the two. I will say though, in Season 3, in terms of their issue wraps, we did take a few steps to make sure it didn't feel bad if other cloaks existed. In fact, we made sure not to add cloaks in Season 3 since most players will be wearing their issue wraps. That being said, we're still looking to add the new cloak cosmetics that'll be purchasable via Renown. So we're looking to make sure that even though we are locking out some slots potentially, we're still giving players some agency over what they can sort of get.
Got it. Makes sense.
All right. It's time for the raid buff question. So it's been implied that the DK raid buff appears to be Death Grip. While Manaforged Omega could have, some bosses with adds to grip, future tiers could not. Why was this decision made instead of giving DKs and all specs a more traditional 60-minute raid buff?
Good question. I was expecting this to come up at some point. In terms of, how we approach raid buffs and just class buffs as a whole, ultimately the goal here is broad spec representation across all types of content, across all the roles. But we also want to explore spaces where we can make unique utility as a valuable part of why you bring a class or a spec to a raid. A good example of this is Warlock. They don't really bring a 60-minute cooldown or a raid buff. They bring Healthstone and Gateway, but that's still extremely impactful. So we want to see if we can carve out a space where Death Knights have an opportunity to shine as well. Can we, make Death Grip more impactful, in upcoming tiers? Can we make it so that they have some agency there? But not only that, we're also buffing AMZ by quite a bit. We're changing it to be % magic DR, which if you've raided Castle Nathria, you might remember just how powerful that could be. And in general, we're looking to sort of see if we can spice up why you want to bring certain raids or specs. Why you want to bring certain classes or specs to a raid. Maybe there's some really unique utility with AMS. Wouldn't be the first time, or a Death Advance. Maybe they can trivialize certain raid mechanics because of those two abilities. we don't want to just sort of default to the 60-minute raid buff. We want to see if we can explore and carve out some more interesting spaces first. In terms of future tiers, not having adds to grip, when we talk about, encounter design and combat design, we discuss these topics amongst ourselves. We will make sure that we're always carving out opportunities for not just Death Knights, but for all classes sort of perform and shine.
That's great.
And,
I mean, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, as a follow-up, because I know all the DKs are going to get at me if I don't mention this, raid buffs are good in M+2, and I think that, AMZ was buffed in raid, but it is nerfed in M+, so I think a lot of the dungeon DKs are a little bit concerned about that. I know balance is a very complicated issue, but I know I got to throw that out there for all of our DK listeners.
No, I appreciate that. Thank you for the feedback. I mean, we'll take it to the team and look into it. When we made the AMZ changes, I believe AMZ was still was a flat value, so we could certainly take a look and see if we can do some updates there as well. No promises though, but as evidenced by any season we've done over the past couple of expansions, we're always happy to update and iterate where appropriate.
Great.
Cool. And I guess I got to throw out one more question for the fans. This one wasn't quite listed, so they may not have a good answer for this. There's been some questions about the Legion Mage Tower skins not being available in the Legion, the
remix.
Why can I not remember? The remix, thank you, Tettles. The Legion remix. And I was wondering if you guys have seen that feedback, if you or comments about that one.
I just cut off real quick. I'm not sure if you did too, Stephanie.
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
Did you get the whole question? Sorry, I can repeat it.
I got the question.
Oh,
Did you
okay.
get it, Stephanie? Okay. I can only speak for the content I'm familiar with. I'm not super familiar with the plan for appearances for Legion Remix, so unfortunately, I can't comment on it.
No worries.
Yeah, I don't really have anything to add on to that either. I think that there's a desire for us to protect like the sanctity of rewards for the content that was originally earned, but I that's just for me saying personally. I can't speak for anybody else on that.
Sure. I understand. Just kind of a very recent hot button issue that people have been talking about.
All right, final question. We can start with Stephanie here. What is the thing that you were looking most forward to with the patch?
I am looking forward to just day one stream watching like as many streams as possible on my screen. And just like one of the things I love to do on these launches is sort of like snoop in a whole bunch of streams and sort of like point at this, talk to a designer and say, hey, look, this person is looking at your content right now, make sure that enthusiasm is shared, because it's been a really long road, and that sort of like player enthusiasm and delight is what really fuels us for the road ahead.
And for you, George?
I think for me, season launches Tuesday night, and I go in there and I punch some dragons with some guildies. That's basically it.
That's good fun.
All right, perfect. Thank you guys so much for joining us. I really appreciate you guys taking time out of your day. Any final thoughts?
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah, I hope you
thanks
guys.
for coming on.
I hope you guys
so much.
enjoy Ghost of Koresh. Thank you.
I think we're all stoked.
Thank you.
We're all big WoW nerds here. We're really excited for the content update.
I'm really
Happy to hear
glad.
that.
I'm really glad.
Can't wait. Do the same intro, but for me and Grell.
And coming to you live from sunny Ontario, California, he is not your raid leader, but he's the raid leader of mine. We have Squishy! Woohoo!
Ontario,
And-
California?
Wait, what did I say? Ontario, Canada.
Yeah, I thought
yeah.
I'm like, he knows the city that he lives in. Yeah, there's a
Coming to
city
you
called
live from the
Ontario.
greater Toronto area, it's Squishy! Woohoo! And coming to you live, shuffling his poker chips, you hear him, a cat in the wind. Meow! Resilient key! Meow! It's Growl!
That's so good. First of all, I'm glad. I was really worried that I was gonna mess up the team's mic stuff or whatever. I don't really think I did, but we were definitely
good.
shuffling poker chips in the background of that one.
I could hear it, my god.
No, we actually joked about because obviously we talk about resilient keys so much, and we were joking about just right away first question in the interview, me just going in on a resilient keys question. But we're
Dude.
like, no. Blizzard finally threw us a bone and gave us a chance for an interview, and it was really, really good. I'm glad we didn't meme it
Yeah.
up.
I'm glad the devs loved your intro. They seem to be absolutely having a good fit at that.
It's like, what's the best way to intro these people? Because most people are just like, they open up the intro, they're like, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? Just like,
Yeah.
What if I just introed them and just hyped them up?
No, I was a big fan. I think they liked that as well. That was good.
The fan-
Overall, I think it. We were just talking about it. We had just got it. We just got off the call, and I'm like, well, let's just press go live and talk about it. So I thought it went really, really well. That was very cool.
I think a lot of the answers were kind of on par with what we've expected. You guys agree with that?
I
Yeah.
think so as well.
I think there were definitely some non-answers. We would have hoped for as much info as possible. It did kind of feel like we definitely went in on some very specific details that unfortunately they're not quite ready to talk about yet. Stuff like, I guess we can just go through the questions one by one, I guess, so we can talk about what we thought about them and the answer.
But before we do that, I actually want to call out I think the most interesting answer for you is the raid buff question, if we can start there.
Oh yeah,
'Cause
the raid buff question is crazy.
I really liked his answer to that in a way, because I think it helped give context. Like the easiest way to balance raid buffs is to give everyone the really basic 60-minute raid buff. But he kind of clarified there that that's not actually what they want to do, which I thought was really interesting.
One thing that I've been thinking about the raid buff, and again, I do think still just giving everyone a raid buff is the simple, good solution to it. But like one thing I was thinking about is raid buffs actually not only the thing that they don't want to do, but also like it's worse, right? Like, dude, Warlock is huge. Like not having a Warlock in a raid fucking sucks. Like Warlock is such a high impact to the fact that you have wipe recovery, health stones, gateway, like. Warlock has the best raid buff, and I do feel like it would be cool if every class was like that you didn't necessarily have a raid buff, but it just the stuff that you brought as a one-off is so good. And I think that's what they want, but it's just so hard. And they kind of, if anything, raid buffs are like the patch where they're like, okay, well, this class doesn't bring enough, so we need to do this. But it's gotten to a point now where it does feel a little weird that so many classes have a raid buff, but like, 2 of them don't or whatever.
To me, it's interesting because like in Mythic Plus, I actually don't think that DK is lacking any level of utility by not having access to that raid buff. Being able to be this refrigerator that doesn't ever die, and you have Death Grip and Anti-Magic Zone is actually, they're all pretty good tools in Mythic Plus. It's better than like Devo Aura or a Trophic Poison or Hunter's Mark. So it's one of those things that like in Mythic Plus, I don't really think it matters. But then whenever you start to look at raid, sure, Anti-Magic Zone at 15% is better than Darkness at 10 and Rally at 10, but it's kind of a question of like what would be the change that you would need to make to their utility to make sure they're brought on every single boss? Because that to me, I think, is the point of contention for a lot of DK players, is that they can just be pretty freely dropped, and they are pretty freely dropped if you've noticed.
Yeah, okay, I had this thought. You remember in Cataclysm they had the have group will travel, the mass summon?
Yeah.
Like, if DK had, for some reason, had an ability that, like, death gates your entire raid to your spot, is that considered a raid buff?
What's funny is they hate that. So I don't know if you guys remember or knew this, but when they did Cataclassic, they actually removed that from the game.
Oh, yeah, completely.
Yeah.
But, like,
Really?
as a theoretical, like...
Yeah.
Like, as a theoretical, is that a raid buff? I'd almost consider it, like, a yes. Because it saves you time in a way, and therefore they are invaluable.
It's quality of life in a way that no other class really has that QOL, kind of in the same way, maybe only Warlocks. It's kind of like if they were the only class, or if them and some other class were the only two groups that have battle res, for example. It would be more valuable for sure, but like, is it QOL that I think you're trying to approach? Because there's a reason that we liked the battle res thing from the Renown track, the Soulstone-esque ability from the Renown track.
Oh yeah. The Shaman Ankh.
It's kind of like one of those things. It's like, is QOL really the appropriate solution, or should it be something that's more tangible?
I mean, you could say the same thing about Warlock, though, right? Like, the main reason you bring it is wipe recovery. That saves you. That probably gives you, an additional 3 to 4 pulls every night.
He said Healthstones and summoning, which I think for a lot of people, Healthstones and summoning can be crucial. I think the wipe recovery is like a way bigger deal.
I would agree the wipe recovery for our version, but for like for pugs and stuff like that, the summons, the gateway, the hellstones definitely more.
That's valid. So like, what would you do to DK then to get them in that state? I guess that's kind of the more interesting point of feedback.
I don't know. Because the one is obviously grip, but like grip is so contentious because mass grip isn't given to like DPS DKs either. So you're just gonna want to bring a blood DK.
AMZ is pretty universally good, but I mean Darkness and Rally are close.
I've heard like Horde of Winter in the past. Like that could be a thing, or maybe like it could. How would you feel if DA gave your party knockback immunity?
Holy shit! Okay, now
Jeez.
see this
Squishy is cooking
this
today.
This is. I think this is cooking. Like I think that kind of question right there is the kind of stuff that you would need to see from them to be like, oh, okay, there's this specific situation where they're broken. Okay, now we're bringing the DK.
Because like that almost feels like Enhancement Shaman old Wind Fury Totem, where you pretty much wanted one in every comp.
Yeah.
For a subset of people, like specifically, let's be honest, it'll be your priest. Your priest will be in the group with the DK. But like that could almost be a direction that DKs are going in. But that's the level of thinking that I feel like we need to go, because Evoker 60-minute raid buff sucks. But they're brought for the Zephyr, the Time Spiral, the Spatial, the Rescue. Like there's so many other things that they bring that I think that's if they don't have a 60-minute raid buff, that's the direction that they need to take the DK raid buff rather than Death Grip. Something that is always going to be pretty useful.
Yeah. And like and speaking about it from Mythic Plus perspective, I don't think that anybody's like, yeah, DK lacks utility in Mythic Plus. Everybody's like, yeah, DK utility in Mythic Plus is like pretty reasonable.
Dude, I love having a DK Mythic Plus. Just caster, kick it. No, just grip it, man.
Grip is fantastic in Mythic Plus. It gets the mobs gathered immediately. That thing is so OP.
Oh, it's so noticeable on PTR, right? Because very few people are playing DK on PTR. And so, yeah, coming from 2 seasons back to back where you have a DK in almost every single team, now you play on PTR and you never have a DK, and there's just like, all right, well, here's this one caster mob, and he's just gonna stand here,
so sad
and I'm gonna be never hitting him with any of my abilities because he's just over there.
Is A-Bomb Limb getting removed healthy? I would be down for all specs of Death Knight to get Mass Grip. Like, I understand why they removed A-Bomb Limb, but I think that just DPS Death Knights having Mass Grip and you slam that in the class tree is fine. I understand that it got removed after Manaroth, but like,
yeah, I don't really know.
I think it should probably come back as like a healthy thing, but maybe increase the cooldown. I think that's probably pretty healthy.
It's just so nice because like there's very few situations where Mass Grip is like pretty broken in raid, but it's always like fairly solid, and like that kind of utility, being able to get the mobs stacked like that in Mythic Plus is just really, really good utility. And so
yeah,
nice
I think the
have.
one thing with Grip that I personally don't think it's considered a raid buff is there's so many other ways to do what Grip does, albeit it is slightly harder, right? Like instead of gripping, you can knock. That is something that does a very similar thing.
Yeah. The reason that I don't agree that it's a raid buff is mostly down to the fact that not every... Okay, so a raid buff guarantees your class. It doesn't guarantee your spec, but it guarantees that your class is going to be seen on each and every single raid boss. Death Grip is not usable on each and every single raid boss. It might be usable on 1.5 bosses per tier. And while on those 1.5 bosses per tier, like take Styx Bunker, for example, Grip is fantastic. One of the best, it's one of the best tools that you can actually have on that fight. It was incredibly potent during progression as well. You could have even played multiple DKs if they didn't suck on that boss, and it would have been totally fine. The problem is that it's only usable on Styx Bunker this tier. So then what?
And that's why we, asked, like, even if this tier, like, let's say this tier they come into, like, here are all the ads that DKs can grip to preserve their raid spot. Every tier, are there going to be these ads that are specifically designed to be gripped in?
Do you know anything about Dimensius? Like, have you read the Dungeon Journal about him yet?
Enough.
Does he have ads? Like, are there going to be, like, grippable ads like that on that fight?
I didn't look at Mythic, but I'm pretty sure Phase 2 is a ad phase. You're killing lieutenants from what I recall.
So mobs that are probably unable to be gripped? You're talking about lieutenant mobs here, right?
Yeah, I don't actually remember.
This is another part of the issue with grip, right? Is that most mobs are just not grippable because they're like high-level lieutenant elites. And you're just like, okay, well, that guy can't get gripped.
There are ads,
Okay.
and assuming they are going to be grippable.
So that's probably what, 2 bosses next tier that grip is decent on.
I mean,
Maybe 3.
first boss mythic has the. Have you seen first boss mythic?
Yeah, I did all the mythic testing.
You can grip those ads. Is it gonna be useful? I don't know, but you can.
You can grip those out?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can displace them and stuff.
So like theoretically, depending on like what the DPS check looks like, you're probably actually going to want to grip the ads to the boss.
Okay, so that's interesting because depending on the last boss, there might be 4 bosses where grip is valuable. Then
I thought you don't want the wall to go through the ads.
I don't think so. You just have to kill the ads before they blow up.
Oh, I thought the wall going through them is what blows them up.
no,
it's just
it's a timer.
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Then yeah. You definitely want to grip them forward then.
Dude, there's
'Cause,
so many
like-
get stuck in the back of the room. It's terrible.
Yeah, like if this is a harder boss, I could see you using like 40 Ks on that because there's 2 ads. They're pretty far from the boss. You're gonna want to like chain grip them to the
Sure.
thing. But like first boss, I mean third boss with the when the ads summon and there's like 4 mages around, like you're probably gonna want grips for those unless you assign kicks to all of them, which you could do. Forge Weaver probably good. That's the one where the ads walk to the collectors.
So grip is good on that fight if somebody is like really stupid.
On Mythic, it might be like in the last phase on Mythic, you can't put the ads near the boss.
Oh,
or else
you're
they
right.
shoot.
You're actually right. I forgot about that. The last phase. The last phase was a little bit weird during testing though. The boss phased at 15%. You had to just like hard burn him. That was strange.
Yeah, but you can't let the ads go in, and they can't go near the boss, or else they shield it.
I mean, that phase was only like 45 seconds long. Otherwise, you start getting like sucked to the point where you can't run against him. I don't know. That phase is a little bit strange.
Nexus King, I don't think there's anything grippable on that. I mean, there's the ads in the mission, but like they're all stacked.
There's nothing. Okay. Fractalis
And
is
then
pure single
Dementius-
target, and then the Demon Hunter Council, there's no grips either.
Yeah.
Could be good this year though. I mean, Frosty K is absolutely buku broken right now, so I don't know if it might not matter if they're tuned like this. They don't need a raid buff.
All right.
Well, actually, this might not be true as whenever this comes out.
We might be recording this a little early.
That's okay.
All right.
Okay. What do you guys think about the Puzzling Cartel Chip Turbo Boost stuff? Saying that they had nothing really planned, but they enjoyed all the feedback in regards to both of those systems. I feel like that's kind of to be expected.
Yeah. So one thing we didn't actually mention in the question, but I was kind of interested about that. I was thinking about more as soon as you asked that. Was the entire raid Renown track, right? Like the idea that like you get stronger, like it felt, the raid Renown track really felt like, okay, this could be an evergreen system where they do this every single raid, right? Like I mentioned that when it first came out, but like getting super fast food buffs and having self-res and all these things piled up, you're gonna feel like such a dummy going into next raid and not having all this stuff that you had. Like raid is gonna feel like it really changed the way farm felt this tier. I mean, our guild cleared 2 full mythic clears. We didn't finish Gallywix, but we literally almost did 2 full clears in one day. Like and this is my guild we're talking about.
Drogo's
guild. Like Drogo's guild, yeah. And so I feel like I want to see that return. I want to see the raid Renown track where you get slightly stronger and you get quality of life buffs. I mean, it feels weird for them to just copy paste the exact same thing over and over, but yeah. But Dinars notably got taken off that and became something else.
I was just thinking about this a little bit more. I actually think it'd probably be better for the game if they didn't announce Dinars and Turbo Boost in advance, because it kind of creates this weird apathy from the players, where the players are like, why play this week? We're just getting Dinars next week. Whereas if they announce, all right, on Friday, they're like, this reset, Puzzling Cartel Chips are back. And it's like, wait a second, hold on, we're back.
That's actually a great point. That's actually a great point. And that very well may be why he just sort of stonewalled it and was like, yep, nothing to say, because being like, oh yeah, Turbo Boost is this day and Dinars are coming out this day, it definitely feels like, I don't know, like it's one of those things where it feels good when it comes out, but then it's like, hey, wait a second, like the last whatever I was doing just was kind of useless. But it wasn't useless because it was fun and you thought it wasn't useless when you were doing it, right? So yeah, I kind of, while I wish he would have been able to tell us more about Turbo Boost and Dinars, I agree with you, and like the fact that he gave that answer, because it very well means that they could be redoing it again.
If they do Dinars, they can either not announce it or they have to detail everything to the exact detail and not change it later on. Right? Like, if they came to the season and were like, here's exactly what we're doing with Dinars. On this date, you're going to get this so that everybody can plan for it, that's fine. Or you just surprise people with it later so they're not, anticipating it down the road and, like, that kind of thing.
I mean, players will always tell you that they want to be in the know more, but I think that there are certain things, particularly with, like, turbo boost gearing, changes to, like, character progression, that if it's unknown, it can actually be a lot more fun as opposed to being able to pre-plan it in advance.
And that's just due to people's optimization, though. But yes, I agree with that.
One thing I wanted to say before we got into the questions too, for those people who are listening who have gotten this far, I just want to give a massive shout out to Squishy. I feel like Squishy was the gel that made this interview so good. The fact that he I'm a complete idiot. I have no idea what I'm doing with these questions or any of this stuff. When I heard we get an interview, I'm like, I'm just staring at a blank document, and Squishy helped so much with putting that together. Also, like, I feel like the sequencing of it, we didn't really talk about or think that much until the very end, but I feel like it was perfect and it flowed really well. Also, the fact that we had STEPH on, who, me and Tettles notably aren't really that knowledgeable with quests or lore or anything, but she's obviously incredibly intelligent and passionate, and we wanted to get some, of those questions out there while we had her available. And so I think everything Squishy did to the interview made it really, really good. So I'm sure Squishy would have wanted to ask the hard-hitting Dinar questions and the Mythic Plus questions or whatever, but he really took one for the bench. So we need some W Squishies in the chat.
I mean, I do know some of the quest stuff, but I actually I asked Porter Gage for some of the questions on lore and questing as well, since he writes for Wowhead, the Wowhead section on lore and quests, since he is way more knowledgeable about that than I am. So that was to him too. But thank you,
so
bro.
humble. I just try and give a shout out to Squishy, and he just passes the shout out to someone else. Squishy is so another W Squishy in the comments.
I mean, like, yeah. All right.
We don't do this podcast on lore, and so or lore and quests, and so then we were like, oh yeah, lead quest designer. We're like, oh shit, hold on, we gotta come up with something that we can only ask questions to George the entire time.
I would have loved to see Tettles ask the lore questions and attempt to,
Yeah,
I don't know.
We talked about that too. We talked about, like, me and Tettles having lore questions, and like, but again, we wanted to make sure that the interview was very genuine and it was good, and we just tried to give it our all. So Squishy would have done the best by far out of us three. All right, on to the couple of my questions. The first one was the defensive creep talent tree one. I mean, I feel like that's something that I'm really passionate about, that I talk a lot about. I feel like it's a little bit of a healer thing.
Yeah.
Kind of a non-answer to that too. But I like that he at least acknowledged it, right? Like, he was nodding his head, like he knew what I was talking about when I was
he's a
the encounter design.
He's a Fame Slayer level healer player. Like, he gets
right.
he knows what you're talking about whenever you're asking this question specifically, right?
Yeah, so I really appreciate and like the fact that he acknowledged it. One thing that he gave the answer that none of us high-end plusers or raiders want to hear is he mentioned delves and solo content, right? Like, it is 100% true that all of the AoE stops and defensives and stuff feel so good for solo content. Like, recently I've been leveling in Mob Classic and I've been playing Mage, and I have one interrupt that's on a 25-second cooldown and no stuns and no CCs and no anything. So, like, I'll literally kick a mob, and then I just, all right, well, I guess if I pulled two mobs, I just can't kick or do anything to the other one. And it feels like really terrible to have nothing except for one interrupt when you're in solo content, right? So I definitely fully understand that, like, this thing needs to exist for solo players or people doing stuff like delves. I've always pitched the idea that I wish there was like some sort of solo player talent tree or whatever, where like if you're not in a party, you have access to things, and it's like, it gives you a general stun and a self heal and all that, so that doesn't have to be included in the normal talent trees.
We got war mode and world mode.
World mode, yeah, exactly, right? I mean, I don't know. I feel like that would be cool, right? Of like, a thing that you maybe it's even a progression system where like the more solo content you do, you unlock all these things. But that was like way too deep of a pitch or an idea for me to even mention. So I kind of just I don't know. I like that he acknowledged it. I guess that's really the only thing we could have hoped for. But yeah, he didn't really give too many details on that one.
I mean, he's kind of right. That is an expansion level feature. But I think that continuing to give feedback on that stuff being annoying, especially, you know, if you do feel strongly about like defensive creep and stuff like that, continuing to give feedback on it in advance so that way whenever they're going into a new expansion, they can really reassess, I think is also pretty valuable.
I agree. I mean, I do think that if they were to do the defensive creep right now, it would be a massive shit show. So,
Squishy, what's your gut reaction? Do you think that they ever prune back defensives, or do you think that delves are too integral part of the game to where they can't?
So come on, delves are integral part of the game.
I mean, they are.
Come on.
The unfortunate truth is
I
that they
hated
are.
that
I mean, you know it's true. It doesn't suck.
look,
It doesn't
okay.
suck to
Look,
hear.
I have no problem for solo content. I'm all for them trying to make good solo content, but the fact that to say that this is too integral to the game so that it has to impact raiding in dungeons in World of Warcraft is a ridiculous statement.
Okay,
So
what
I
does a
think-
Shadow Priest do whenever they're getting beat to death by a fucking mob in a delve? Like, genuinely.
No, okay, I played
Okay,
Priest and
let's
Delves.
switch
I was
the answer.
playing-
Let's switch the answer.
Okay,
Let's switch the
it's
answer.
fine,
You keep cutting him off.
It's fine. No, so okay, so like I actually think that it's not necessarily delves. I think delves are like the example that's given because what exists. But the real thing that they're tuning for here is solo content. There obviously has to be some tuning behind solo content because I think we're all kind of in agreement for our personal taste that delves are not exactly interesting content. And the only reason that people like them is because it's the only solo content in the game. But even if there were other solo content like Horrific Visions, they do have to tune around them. That is the hard part. Because in order to reduce the number of defensives, like I'm sure people love going in and using invis to like walk around and feels good to walk through mobs while solo. But that also adds another defensive. So, do you tune for the casual player base of the game, or do you tune for the high-end player base? And there are a lot more casuals than high-end players, as bad as that feels. Now, there's some level that they could probably meet in the middle, but I think the bigger issue more than the defensives is even if the defensives exist, healing is too spiky. And I think it would be more fun if the difficulty was easier, like Gallywix. Even if the content is more of a pushover, people would have more fun not getting globaled. So like you can keep the defensives you can leave the defensives and they exist, but just fix the healer incoming burst damage.
Yeah, I mean but it feels like the only way that they have to kill people off now is just like one-shotting you 100 to 0 because now there's this expectation that you've pressed a defensive because you have 5 of them, right?
Sure, but also people are so optimal with their defenses right now because of add-ons. And that leads to the whole add-on discussion.
Yeah.
That whenever they get rid of liquid timelines, liquid weak auras, ERT notes, like all of these things are supposedly going away down the line, you are either going to have to memorize it in your head or find some other way to remember when to press your defensives that people are going to become a lot less optimal, and Blizzard is probably going to be able to kill you a lot easier. There are not many people who can, get in the habit of pressing their defensive at the exact same point every single time. There's also other ways to kill people that they haven't really explored, such as failing, a different type of mechanic, one that has the correct amount of affordance, such as like a communication type of mechanic or stuff like that, moving around. If you're chained to somebody and you break the chain, you snap and die, like Sludge Fist, like there are ways to kill people that aren't just burst them down.
Razza gets phase 1.
Yeah, they just haven't chosen to use those types of mechanics for some reason. And that is just due to the power of healers, in my opinion.
Yeah, I feel that for sure. Speaking of healers, I had to ask where are the tanks and healers question too. I really like this question. I feel like he also appreciated it because I feel like people complain about the meta and balance so much, but the balance is actually insane. And I think I genuinely feel that, and I sympathize for the devs in that regard. That everyone complains, "Oh, my spec sucks," when really it's like, well, if there was twice as many tanks, there would be twice as many groups, and it would be twice as easy to get invited, And I feel like this was a question where I wish I was like at a bar and I could sit down with them and we could just talk about it for a really long time. The idea of how to make tanks and healers, you know what I mean? Because it's like a very, very complex, difficult
it's
question.
a philosophical question of like, how do you get people to play tank in a game where like support's not popular in Dota, it's not popular in League, support's not popular in Overwatch. Those roles are never popular, right?
Right. There was I think maybe we talked about this way back when, but there was this report that Blizzard put out about Overwatch about trying to get more people to play tank. And one of the things they commented on is rewards literally like don't exist. Like the idea of like, oh, we're going to give somebody augment runes or gold or like some, whatever for like no one like that barely moves the needle for how much people will play tank or healer. And you really have to like systematically change, do something to make more people play it. One thing that I thought was really super interesting during the Fellowship beta test is they said that healer was actually the most popular role more than DPS, even though there was 2 DPS per group and 1 healer per group, that there were more healers playing Fellowship than DPS. And it made me really question why, like what it was about that or
That is
whatever.
really interesting. I didn't hear that.
It was for one of the, when they first came out with the beta test, they mentioned that healer queues were really, really long to get through the tutorial because everybody was loading up the game and picking healer, and then it would take forever to get into the tutorial group. So yeah, I don't know. I feel like he mentioned a lot of things. He talked about threat, and it's good that he was aware of, some of the issues that tanks talk about. Another thing that he didn't mention, but is something that they're working on, is sort of like tank mechanics in dungeons. We see Halls of Atonement. While Halls of Atonement right now is miserable for tanking, it's clear that wasn't.
That sucks.
But it's clear that it wasn't their intention, and that their intention is how do we shift up the tank mechanics to make it better. Like even though they didn't hit the mark right now in the PTR, it's clear that that's what they were trying to do. Right? They were like, how do we change some of these tank mechanics to make it better for players? And I think that again, it was. I don't know. I wish again he would have had some like crazy cool answer of like some plan that they had. One thing that I wish maybe he would have hit on is like the complexity or simplicity of it or whatever, or maybe making tanks easier to play or making giving tanks more damage or something like that. He didn't really touch on those. I didn't want to go into like very specific things about tanks or healers like community suggestions, but yeah, I don't know.
The problem with the tank stuff is like, I didn't mean to cut you off, but like
No, you're good. Go.
Whenever you get too specific with things, I don't think it actually fixes the problem with the reason that people don't play tank. The reason that people don't play tank is because they didn't play tank 20 years ago because the role was pitched as some support role, right? Like you're reading about what tank is on some website in the year 2008, and it's like, yeah, you wield a shield and you tank for your fellow allies to let them be the carry, and you're like, this sucks. Like, why the fuck would I want to play tank? Like, that's the reason that people don't play tank. Not due to. I mean, I'm sure that there's like secondary effects, secondary reasons that you don't play tank because it does low damage, and I fucking hate threat. But I feel like that's a secondary reason, like less so than you didn't pick tank 20 years ago, so you're not playing it now.
I mean, okay, so here's my cook right now that I just thought of. And the reason it's kind of piggybacking off the recent conversation is that tanks and healers are the only are roles that rely on more thinking than the others. You have to think more when you versus playing DPS. Like
as a DPS, the one button rotation.
Sure, you could use the one button rotation. Previously, you could just press buttons. You'd do bad DPS, but like your other group members could carry you. Right, but as a healer especially, even if you have the perfect rotation down to weak cores and stuff like that, you still have to be able to identify who to heal and when, which is an extra step that DPS don't have to do, right? Like it isn't like, oh, you're not constantly target swapping like you do as a healer, right? If DPS had to constantly target swap and constantly figure out like, a boss swaps immune shields every 5 seconds. That's kind of essentially what healers do in a way. And then you have tanks, which is a whole nother story, which is you're responsible for basically your survival and the survival of your entire party. And you are target swapping every 2 seconds especially in the old days for threat, for watching out for your survival. Like your mind is everywhere on that. And so like I'm wondering if I don't know what the solution is, but the issue is you just have to think
I think
as
with,
tank and healer.
with tank too, you have to be a group leader, and most people don't want that responsibility.
Sure.
Yeah.
But like even that aside, I
Yeah.
still think the issue is you can't turn your brain off and tank
We're putting
or
it.
heal.
Yeah.
People come home to game, they just want to blast. You know? They don't want to come back and have to deal with I'm going to keep threat, hold, stay alive, do damage, figure out the route. Like
Healing on the PTR.
it's just there's so many responsibilities.
Healing on the PTR is such a shit show too, because it's like healing at 12 is the same level as healing like a 17, depending on the people that you're playing with.
Yeah,
like,
I'm glad
no
that's funny that you
breaks.
mentioned that too, because dude, I hate healing on PTR. I've played more PTR keys this PTR than I have ever out of any PTR besides like betas of expansions. Literally because I'm playing Mage. It's so much more fun to just I don't care what key level, what dungeon we're doing. I'm just gonna walk in and press my buttons like. As a healer, just like you said, like it depends on who you're playing with and depends on all this stuff. And yeah, I don't know. I think it's really, really hard, right? Another like what Tuttle said about 20 years ago what tanking was. I mean, I think it's true for everybody that gets into the game, right? Like I can speak personally, when I started playing World of Warcraft, I kind of wanted to play tank, right? But I didn't want to play when I first started. Like I started as a healer with the plan of, okay, I'm gonna play tank after, and I just never played tank. Like I'm just like, all right, I'm a healer now. And so I definitely one thing that I think that they added that's kind of slept on, but it's probably really, really good is follower dungeons. Like the idea of being able to go into a dungeon by yourself as a tank and like fuck around and try stuff and like, you know what I mean? And learn. It would be cool maybe to expand follower dungeons into higher difficulties to like allow tanks to see what it feels like. Because like that's one of the big problems with those is as a tank, you don't really take any damage. Like you can move around the dungeon and see stuff, but you don't actually, learn. Like I think if you could go into M0s as a tank with a follower dungeon group and just like see stuff, and that was like a viable way to like level or gear up, I feel like that would be really cool.
Is it too late to make tanking just an easier role in general, Squishy? Like,
I think so.
Okay, that was
Realistically, if I were to, let's say, like design an MMO or something like that, brand new, because I don't think this will ever happen in WoW, I think the Trinity is not great. I think the only way I think the Trinity needs to go. I think supports can exist, but not healers.
So you like Lost Ark style then, basically?
Yes, because I think the idea of a tank puts too much responsibility on a single person. Like, if I were to create WoW and just adjust it however I wanted in a perfect world, I would remove the tank, make all basic attacks something like Plunderstorm, where it's frontals and dodge effects, and the support and the healer gets converted to a support where they're able to heal minor damage, but they're not completely responsible for topping people up. Basically, it turns into more of a dodge simulator than it does to like the Trinity.
Yeah, I guess one of the nice things about tanks is like that feeling of WoW where you can just like gather up 10 mobs and just like nuke all of them down,
Yeah.
like 20 mobs, whereas like it isn't necessarily. I guess Lost Ark sort of had that, but those would be like complete nothing mobs where they're just like no threat at all, and you're just like hitting nothing.
I mean, for what it's worth, Diablo 3 existed, and that's exactly what you did. And people love the shit out of that.
Yeah,
so...
that's fair. Yeah, that's fair. I guess you still could do quote unquote big pulls or whatever, even if you don't have a tank. Yeah, you might be right there.
Like it'll never happen in WoW, but like
delete tanks.
I would watch.
Squishy says delete tanks. That's a suggestion.
Yep.
There's not enough tanks, so we got the roll. Gotta go.
Yep. How to improve LFG? Delete tanks. You nailed it. All right.
The lore questions.
So
one thing I actually kind of liked her answer, and I thought this was very, very interesting, talking about the idea of like having the raid unlock the dungeon or like some stuff like that. It really kind of made me think that, God, it's probably so annoying as the quest designer or someone who's like trying to put everything together to be so limited option wise by us annoying like competitive players who don't give a fuck about lore. You know what I mean? Like how cool would that be to like have the mythic raid unlock a dungeon, right? But like that could never happen. Like people would be like, what are you doing? What is this? Like it would be, everyone would be complaining, there's no new dungeon this patch. Like what are they doing? What is Blizzard like? I feel like there would be so many complaints from the competitive community about something like this if there was like a secret dungeon, but it's so cool, right? Like that idea of like, 3 weeks into the patch, Liquid kills the boss and it uncovers this secret dungeon that we didn't know about, and then all of a sudden it's in M+. Like, but it just couldn't happen because of how seriously everyone takes the game. So I definitely sympathize with her a lot, and I thought it was like a pretty funny answer because I could, not that she was frustrated, but almost like, she almost wanted to say like, yeah, my options are limited to what I can do here.
Well, dude, it's funny. I think that people would hate this today. I actually enjoyed getting attuned for Arcway and Quarter Stars back in Legion. Do you remember that, Squishy? Like having to do the withered training attunements and
barely.
bullshit.
I remember the scenario.
You had to get rep to be able to allow Quarter Stars and Arcway to be playable on M0.
Okay. What like attunements that are just quest lines I think are fine. Having to grind rep is starting to get into like the chore territory that a lot of people would rather not do.
Well, you only had to do the chores for if you wanted it for the first week of the expansion.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I remember having fun doing that, but I'm pretty sure I'd be pissed if I do that today.
Yeah, I don't think it's coming from the classic background. I don't know if attunements would really go well. Another thing that some old school attunements did was like it would be forced group content, right? Like it couldn't be stuff that you would do solo. Like nowadays they would expect that you should be able to get fully attuned by yourself, but back in the day, like some attunements you needed to like do dungeons with a full party or do even like 10-mans and stuff.
What was your expectation with the spoiler questions?
I just kind of wanted to know because like I know there are people that like there were lots of people that when we put a minor spoiler, some people are like, "Oh my god, that's a spoiler," because everybody's version of a spoiler is different, right? They may be okay with certain things, they might not, and so I have no idea how they were going to prevent spoilers from the story if the dungeon's available M0 day one. You know, right? Like the raid's not out yet. How are you going to avoid whatever story spoiler is coming there? And if it's just frankly not available, that's the best possible solution. So I assume you like kill the last boss and there's like a cutscene or something that plays. I don't know.
Yeah, this is another one where I could definitely sense like, God, this would be so frustrating for them, right? Like you want to craft a cutscene where like you get to a point in the game and then the cutscene plays and you're like, oh cool, this is what happens, right? But the way it works in current year is, and this isn't no shade at Wowhead, but as an example, right? Posted on Wowhead, cutscene data mine, final boss kill or whatever, and the patch isn't even out yet, and people know what the cutscene is and they're watching it and commenting on it, and it's on YouTube, and it's like, I don't know, it must be so annoying trying to, craft an experience when you think about that. Like, that's not necessarily how so many people play the game. Like, they play it as such a serious, competitive, and myself included, right? But if you're trying to make a story, it's like, you almost have to, like, be earmuffs and not pay attention to a lot of things, even though you enjoy the game a lot. If you want to experience it like that.
I think a lot of people in WoW feel validation by, like, being informed every single little thing happening in advance. Where I'm sure they, I don't think they wish they were playing Final Fantasy, but I'm sure they wish they could take some things from Final Fantasy where those people kind of cherish the no spoilers, don't look at things in advance, blind prog raids. I'm sure they wish they could kind of take that aspect from WoW, because it would make for a very different game, but I think it would make for, especially from like a storytelling perspective, a cooler game in that way.
I also think the raid cinematic is also one of the most hype things because it gives you like a clue as to where WoW is going next. Especially this one. We have Dimensius, right? He's the big bad of the raid. And then you have the Midnight, with Xalatath and all that. And this is like Chris Metzin's World Soul Saga. And so like it's probably going to give us a clue as to where we're going next.
All right.
And what we're going to do there. And so I think knowing that is so important to a lot of people, which is kind of why I asked the story mode question. It's just like, if you don't see it day one, the chances are you're probably going to get spoiled unless you completely avoid, social media. It's like a movie spoiler, right? Like when Avengers Endgame come out, there were so many ads like, please don't spoil the movie for other people. Please don't. And people were like generally pretty respectable on it, but like eventually you're going to see something, or any TV show, you're going to see a spoiler. And then for the people that care about it, you're going to be really sad.
Yeah. So mute this if you don't want any spoiler about next expansion. Chris Metzin's bringing back Garrosh Hellscream.
I thought we were supposed to tell that.
Tettles?
They told us not to put that in the interview.
Oh, my bad.
Yeah, who's Garrosh Hellscream?
He's that orc. He's that orc that people post about on Twitter. Yeah.
He's an orc. All right.
He's that orc, that Makar orc. He's not Makar?
Tettles had the add-on question. I think he appreciated your comment, and I didn't want to butt in, but I wanted to double what you said about the bosses seeming like the way they designed the bosses. It didn't feel like they were overly complex weak aura bosses, and it felt like it was genuinely more like, okay, how do we solve this or whatever. And I even want to comment about like Fractilius or whatever. It's
Yeah.
probably going to be a weak aura boss, but I think it was so fun to do without a weak aura, even though I only played it with for like an hour.
I will say, like, something I wish I followed up on with that comment is he talked about Mythic Plus a little bit on that as well. I feel like Mythic Plus has gotten to the point where weak auras in Mythic Plus and, you know, big wigs, timers on nameplates and all that shit. Mythic Plus really could use a nice weak aura disarming personally. I don't think it's polite to play the game without weak auras just because of how impactful they are in Mythic Plus, but fuck, I wish I could.
I think all of us here, like, if we could play the game without add-ons, like, it'd probably make the game better and the game experience more fun.
Yeah, well, that's a double-edged sword, right? Of like, well, the game needs to be designed in that way, but I feel like they are showing that direction, right? Like they are clearly trying to make bosses that are fun that aren't necessarily weak aura bosses. And it's a tough freaking challenge. Like I sympathize with them. I know I keep using that word, but that's how I feel about devs when all I hear is complaints from the community about things.
I mean, I think that them understanding that, you know, the add-ons are a little bit too impactful and they're having to make like a pretty large step to remove them from the game. That is like, that's a risk. I mean, that genuinely is a risk for them.
Yep.
And the difficulty question.
Oh yeah, I don't know. That felt like it was kind of dodged a little bit. I think he was trying to answer it, but I don't think he wanted to talk about like relative difficulty in that way.
Yeah, I think maybe we could have worded it more so like asking them about what they thought of the difficulty of these raids. Like we were kind of asking about the difficulty of the next raid, which they couldn't necessarily talk about, right? But like maybe we could glean in on a little more. Like he did comment though that the sharper edge of the first raid. I don't know. I think
I'm sure
in general I didn't think Undermine was bad.
No, I think that most people tend to agree that Undermine was good. I think I think this is probably a poorly worded question by me. I think we maybe should have pivoted a different direction.
I mean, I think it was okay. Like for you guys, what is the right number of pulls for last boss in your opinion?
250 maybe.
150.
Somewhere between 150 and 250.
Yeah, I mean, I'm about there as well.
I wouldn't exceed 250. I think it's like my answer. Like I wouldn't want it to be like more than that.
250 is so many.
Yeah, I would say like 150. I think that's about where I'm at. Like anything more than like 200, I think I'm probably starting to like cry and stuff like that. Because it's just like it's either super long or super punishing, and those bosses are never fun to me.
Yeah,
I like a couple easy bosses that are like 1 to 10. I like a couple medium bosses that are like 50-ish, and then maybe one really hard boss that's like 150.
Okay, maybe 250 is too high. What are?
But I also prefer easier raids in general. Like I think a lot of people really like the super challenging raids and varying skills of guilds. I don't necessarily like. I like to be like, to me, like 1 to 2 Knights of Prague is the ideal for like a really good boss. And anything more than that is like, I accept that the end boss of the Mythic Raid might be a little bit harder, but like I like Gallywix. To me, Gallywix was like a near perfect end boss. It was definitely, the flow of the fight was a little weird. The fact that the end was not that tough and the middle was the really hard part, but I mean, they can't always nail that.
Okay, so Raz Mythic is around 250 average. I think that's maybe a little bit on the hard side. Maybe something a little bit easier than Razagath. But I think it's something that's a little bit harder than Sarkareth. For some reason, the average guild that killed Mythic Sarkareth took 250 pulls. What the fuck were they doing?
Phase 3 was really tough because you hit one and people didn't know how to, like, you already got 5 stacks to debuff by hitting one thing. Like that was really rough for a lot of guilds.
I'm pretty sure we killed that boss in like 130 pulls or something.
It wasn't a hard boss as long as you're capable of dodging.
I guess.
But also dodging was really tough with the old sword.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like maybe 250 is a little bit on the hard side. Thinking about it a little bit more. Also, because 250 for me is a lot more for other people. Maybe that's probably on the hard side. What was after
my question? My question was the big long worded M+ question where I ended it. All right, so here's my cook. Okay, this is I know that there was a player survey that went out asking about solo queue, and I know it's been something that the community has talked about for a little while. Like, I don't think it's totally new to them. And so when I did the whole, oh, what about solo queue thing? And then he goes, oh, that would be cool. I kind of feel like he was hiding something. I feel like the fact that he said, oh, it was cool, as if like he's never thought of that before. I feel like that I kind of liked his answer there, but I didn't want to dig more. Obviously, if there was like, again, 0% chance that he unveils solo queue in our podcast interview, right? Like that would have been wild. But I feel like, again, this is one of the best answers he could have gave, right? Like I feel like I don't know. I feel like that was a cheeky, like, oh, that was cool. Like he knew.
We would have had to pause the interview. Hold on, wait a second. I think that, like, to me, it was kind of telling because they were talking about. He was like, yeah, internally we talk about group formation a lot, and we've been talking about it more recently. We don't have anything to announce right now, which makes me think that I don't think solo queue is maybe the answer, but he was talking about matchmaking in between people and getting people more quickly made in matches, which made me think that there was maybe an LFG update that was potentially looming.
Yeah, sort of like how people sort of like try and use like Raider.io and Warcraft logs. It seems to work okay for finding guilds, but in terms of finding people for M+, I doubt anybody really, like I see these like M+ looking for group things on people's Raider.io, but I doubt it ever works. I do feel like something in game might be cool. I don't know. Like, I guess the way I've always thought of it when I think of resilient keys is resilient keys would be really cool if you go into LFG and you do your resilient key with 4 other people who are also resilient, you upgrade it, and then all of you go into the next key together, right? Like, I think that would be a really cool way, but this is the way the system works, right? None of those 4 resilient players want to help you push up your key. So instead, you have 4 people that need the key for score, and it's just you sitting there with a bunch of people who are lower than you. Then you get then you finally upgrade it. What do? You kick all of them, and then the 4 resilient players of that level come in, right? Like that's basically how LFG works, right? Like people would rather just sit in Dornigal for 30 minutes while they just like browse YouTube shorts or whatever, then finally get into a group rather than do a key for 30 minutes and then push it up, right? Because it's not really how it works.
So I think I think it's on both ends. I think it's on the players' end and it's on the leaders' end. Farfa typed something in my chat the other day that I just like laughed about. He goes, whenever there's a group that says 14, 15 after, has anybody in the history of the world ever stayed for the 15 after? No. The answer is no. You've never stayed for the 15 after.
Nope, never, ever, never. Well, it's not even about staying. Like the group leader kicks you. Because why would the group, like, unless you're crazy good, right? Why would the group leader play with 4, like, the people that join the key never join it just for the 15, right? They're only joining it if they need the 14. And then likewise, like all those people are kicked for the 15 because dude, you still needed 14s, you're kicked, you know? Unless like, oh, the group goes perfectly and you get a dark flame or a mother load, and then you're like, all right, fine, we can do the 15, right? But yeah, no, that's sort of the thing I want. And again, this is maybe a question that I'd love to just chat with him at a bar for an hour about because this whole dynamic is going on. But I do think that, again, he did voice that this is something that they're thinking about, and he did something. I guess thinking, all right, solo queue might be a little optimistic, but you're definitely right that it did feel like they were cooking something up and acknowledged the wanting to improve the group finder for M+.
Yeah. So I remember at BlizzCon 2022. What was the last BlizzCon? 2023. I remember we were at a party talking with Ian.
Yeah.
And we were talking about solo queue.
Yeah.
And at that time, it was like no, we don't think it's really good for the game type thing. And so like, if they change their minds on that, I think that'd be interesting. I don't know if it'd be good, but like it definitely, like, I'm all for them trying new things. I think the way that things are more likely to go is the smaller stuff, because solo queue is a big, like, it's a big thing. Maybe in Midnight, but like it feels like an expansion level system versus like a patch level system.
I mean, there are just so many pitfalls. Like, dude, okay, the lever system's getting added this season. Let me just say my thoughts on the lever system right now. It is.
We didn't talk about the lever system at all.
It is so fucking easy to get marked as a lever on accident just by natural course of playing the game right now. And like if they added solo queue in the middle of an expansion, like you're saying, and it wasn't thoroughly tested, like I think that that's something that needs testing for a really long time to make sure that it's done well. Because I think it could be done well. I think that there's just so many problems that it could face that you have to be able to just make sure that it's perfect on launch. Otherwise, it is making the game noticeably worse.
I think like what they could do is, I think at one is use a recent players tab. like a lot of lobby games have this at this point. Like if you queue with someone in League or Overwatch or Marvel Rivals that you really enjoy and that you think is good, like you find a really good support, it's a lot easier to click the recent players tab and find them and just be like, yo, you want to party up?
Yeah, sure.
Like I've done that before. Because it's a lot easier than remembering, oh, what was the name of that Mercy that was pocketing me the entire time? I don't fucking remember. And then you just move on to your next game, right? Like, so like, if you're like, oh, this Jang B guy's a really good mage, let me invite him to my next key, just go to recent players and click that. I think that's a step. Is it going to fix everything? No. But
these motherfuckers
something
in
that they can
WoW
do.
don't want to even ask somebody to join their next key. I don't really understand it.
You don't even need to ask. You just click the button, man.
If
The
somebody,
way- so-
if somebody ninja invited me, I'm declining it. Just I'm telling you now.
This is a weird sort of stretch, but I feel like in order to get people to stay together more, you do kind of need to change the way keys work. Like one idea that I've sort of had is like having shared ownership of the key, like, you know, like your key doesn't have a dungeon on it, but instead has a level. And so like everybody simultaneously upgrades or downgrades their key at the same time, if that makes sense. Just sort of like, I don't know exactly how it would work. Like I haven't really fleshed out the system, but that's sort of the way I see it going the most of like, okay, well, everybody has a stake in the keystone, but it does seem like Blizzard is kind of going the other way on that. Like, well, they're introducing the lever system to make sure that you're penalized if you're like not giving a fuck about people's keys or whatever. Anyway, speaking of lever system, Growl's rant of the week. I'm playing Mists of Pandaria Classic, and I'm queuing dungeons as a mage while I'm leveling and doing quests. I join into a queues are really long because I'm a DPS and I'm solo, right? I queue into a dungeon. 2 minutes into the dungeon, we're just pulling the first boss. I get kicked from the group. They kick me from not a word was said at all in the chat, and I get 30-minute banned from Group Finder. Like clearly it was just a 4-stack and they were messing around and they either knew who I was or were just for some reason was like upset that I didn't lust or something, and like they just kicked Jangbi from the group. And now why do you get banned for 30 minutes if you get kicked? You already just got kicked. I just sat in queue for 20 minutes to get kicked and now I'm banned? I was steaming.
I saw the most
steaming.
unreal tweet. I saw the most unreal tweet this week. It says, "This is a message from my guildie this morning. Imagine if this has been a new player's experience. I know I would have quit." And the post says, "I had a super terrible experience in MoP just now. I queued for dungeon. Everything is going well. We make it to the final boss. The group vote kicks me. I get a 30-minute deserter debuff, and none of them will tell me why they would kick." First off, that is asshole behavior. Like if somebody's AFK in the dungeon, like that's the only reason I'm voting to kick somebody in a queued content anyways. Because queued content in WoW is always so easy. It's LFR, it's normal dungeons, it's like time walking. So anything bars them literally being AFK or putting somebody on follow and not contributing to the dungeon, I'm not going to vote yes to kick them to begin with. But then there's these insane delusional people in the comments of this tweet that goes, "I speak on behalf of the people doing the kicking." We gave you the entire run to figure out what the fuck you're doing wrong and stop being a complete deadweight. If you can't figure it out by the time we're at the last boss, that's on you. I cannot believe these people exist. Like, I cannot believe these people
What
exist.
an insane comment. Like, okay, dude, imagine somebody's playing Arcane Mage. First of all, you're in a leveling dungeon, okay? This isn't like you're in a plus 12. You're in a leveling dungeon. Oh, you didn't figure out how to play Arcane Mage in the last 8 minutes? How could you not have figured out how to play Arcane Mage in the last 8 minutes? First of all, I'm trying to play, even if they think you suck or whatever, right? The pack dies in 12 seconds. It's a MoP leveling dungeon, bro. Like, what am I supposed to figure out? Like, dude, people are, like, here's the thing is, from their perspective, like, it could have just been, like, a funny joke or whatever. And, like, dude, I'll be the first to admit that sometimes when a vote kick or a vote abandoned, I just click yes without even looking at what it is. So, but like, why are you banned? Like, I get it if those 4 people didn't want to play with me or they just thought it was funny to kick me and play with 4 people, but why am I banned?
30 minutes.
Why do I have 30 minutes?
30
I have
deserter.
a debuff on my character that says I'm a deserter. I'm walking around the Kara saying wilds and everyone clicks on Jangbi and they just see deserter. Like, what? I didn't desert anything.
You know what it reminds me of, Tettles? Do you remember Twitter, like, a while back, there was the, like, I expect you to know mechanics in a +4 dungeon or something?
Yes.
That's what this reminds me of.
God
But
damn it.
to pull it back real quick, the last thought. The other thing they could do, and I know the comments are gonna fucking hate me for saying this, is get people into a voice chat easier. Blizzard voice chat sucks.
I think Blizzard voice
Okay,
chat's not
that's
that
a lie.
bad.
That's a lie. Blizzard voice chat is good, but it's unknown to people. What voice chat do people know very well and use all the time that we're even using right now? Discord. And guess what was
Teams.
added
Oh.
in 11.1 at some point that hasn't been used yet?
Wait, what?
Discord. There's been some Discord integration in the 11.1 patch. Nothing's been done with it yet.
What?
Back in December 2024, near the end of the month, a new file was added that has Discord like API calls.
I always assumed that was just for the weird like advertising things that started happening in Discord around that time. You know, those like things that pop up in the bottom left that you can like get in-game stuff. I mean, maybe it could be way more than that, but I agree. Like, I wish, I don't know. Again, the community's gonna hate when we say use voice chat, and I mean, there's times when I don't want to use voice chat, but I don't know. I do think that it's hard because it doesn't suck, right? Like Blizzard voice chat is fine.
Yeah.
Like, maybe,
I mean,
yeah, maybe like I don't know. Again, they could make it better, right? Like one thing that would make me comfortable in game is like, you know, okay, you go into a group, it comes with a message. Group leader suggests you use voice chat. Do you want to join? Like yes or no. And then maybe there's even a button that's like test, and then you can just like click the test button and you can make sure your mic works and you know what I mean, like before you enter. Yeah,
like,
I don't know.
I can see this going either way because like there's essentially they added links to the Discord auth, like you know when you like it says connect to Discord on like any kind of application, it's like it goes to Discord/authorize or something. You're like so and so would like to use this. They added that to one of the files in 11.1. So there's gonna be assumingly some form of Discord integration. It could be as simple as like post your achievements to Discord or something.
Yeah.
Or it could be like or I mean like would it be interesting if you could like click something in game and go to like a Discord voice chat?
Okay,
with one click.
But I don't think that's why people are unwilling to use it, right? I don't think it's due to accessibility because everybody has Discord. Somebody can link a fucking Discord. I think it's mostly that people just don't want to. Because they're uncomfortable. I mean, they're just uncomfortable meeting new people. Like, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. I mean,
which I personally think sucks. I mean, like, I like meeting people in WoW, I mean, but
if you also want people to stay together after groups, getting in voice with people is a really good way to keep trying.
That is true, because it's really awkward to leave the group and be like, guys, you guys are not very good. I gotta go.
Yeah, exactly. Like people will still do it. I have done it in like Destiny raid groups where I beat a bunch of pugs and I'm like, this group is not going anywhere, and voice call. Like, it happens. But the odds of you being like, we wiped, let's try again, let's resil, goes up. That's gonna be a proven fact.
Is resil.
Is resil.
Right? Like, a lot of people, if it's not resil, or even if it is resil, you just leave if the group looks bad, but maybe you'll try again. I don't know. I will always advocate for voice chat, even if a lot of people hate me for it.
I would love for the meta to be more people just get in voice with one another. Because that's how I love playing WoW. Playing WoW is so much better whenever you're playing with... Okay, first, I'm going to say friends, but like, the issue is like, it's difficult to make friends in WoW if you're not like trying to actively socialize, right? And so, I mean, this is like step one of trying to meet new people and socializing, right? Is getting in voice with them.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I respect people wanting to play solo, but also I think that to me, by far the most fun in WoW is when you play with people. I want to say though, I feel like maybe I'm just a little out of the loop. Like I've been playing with the same people, but I've noticed so many people now that I played a season basically soloing in M+ with Jangbi, so many people are playing M+. Like I have so many new Discords on my list, and I see them in there every day playing. like groups of 5 who play together every single day, and people memeing and shit. And it's like, I feel like being a part of that is like one of the best parts in WoW. When you have a Discord, it's like literally 7 people in there, and it's just you 5 shooting the shit all the time. Oh, when are we playing? And they just ping each other, and then you get on and play like a couple of times a week.
Yeah.
Like that's like the dream for an M+ player, I feel like.
Or there's no M+, you play Codenames, right, girl?
That's right.
Dude, I am in Codenames despair. All right, another Growl story. It'll be short. Our Codenames has died in our like M+ group, but I hooked my roommate my roommate and a few of our IRL friends into it. And so we've had a couple of Codenames games that we've been playing with like IRL friends. They're not quite as knowledgeable as like Evade and you guys or whatever, but one of them I caught, he pasted a chat GPT thing in the Discord and then instantly deleted it, but I had the Discord open and I saw it. I'm pretty sure we have one friend in our group who puts the board in chat GPT when he's the spy master. So he has the most polarizing clues. Like he'll come up with some clues that are absolutely brilliant, and then some of his other clues are just miserable and make absolutely no sense. But I don't want to confront him about it because it doesn't really.
It's like some guy using a Scrabble solver whenever he's playing Scrabble.
Yeah, well, it's not a. It's like I don't know. It's just funny. Yeah. So I haven't really I don't know. I don't want to confront him about it or make a big deal. But yeah, he's been using Chat GPT in our friend Codenames game.
I only got like 20 more minutes.
All right, speedrun. One button rotation.
I was shocked at their response on the OBR.
This was my least favorite part of the interview. I think. For one, I wanted to press more on the idea that, well, what if you're just playing the game and you don't want to use it, but the other people in your group want you to? But I didn't want to go hard on it, and it's like a very soft spot. But he basically completely brushed over that and then just talked about how great it was.
I think I do think the one button rotation gets a lot worse for most specializations this tier, at least, because tier sets are more impactful and more complicated. This is the one button rotation is a lot better whenever specs are a lot more simple. But whenever you have to like look at new procs or look at new effects based around your hero talents and the tier sets, the one button rotation gets a lot worse for some of these specializations for sure.
Was that just because it's not coded right?
I think it's because I
bet Hikili is just as good, right?
Well, yeah,
they changed the Hikili API, so why is the one button rotation bad?
I think the one button rotate, I think the one thing that resonated with me with the whole situation is honestly just he mentioned that they're gonna see, because right now they launched this in the middle of a patch, and I think they will see what the honest response is. Are there a lot of people who feel incentivized to use this at the pressure of their guild leaders, their raid leaders, and stuff like that? Because there is a distinct possibility that all this is just anxiety that is coming from nowhere. And realistically, this is all going to blow over because it technically already exists in the game through Hikili.
Right.
But if, a bunch of Reddits, you see a bunch of stories, my guild leader forced me to use the one button rotation or I'm getting G-kicked, and that's a constant daily thing, they'll probably take a look at it.
That's getting nerfed if that happens, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's a really fair take, because to nerf based on what is essentially the end of a season when not people are playing, your casuals have probably moved on to insert other game, Hello Kitty and
Mop,
whatever else.
Sod.
Mop. That I think is fair. And when all those people who this is designed for come back, you get their honest reaction. That's when I think the feedback is going to be the loudest for whether it's good or whether it's bad. And then our fears will be confirmed or denied. And I think that's the result of what his answer summed up to for me. And I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think I definitely didn't like the question as much because, again, we haven't seen a prog raid tier yet, right? It came out late into this patch. But I do think it's more of a silent killer than you're giving it credit for. I'm not so much worried about the angry guy that's going to post on Reddit about his guild. I'm more worried about the people that feel inclined to use it than use it and just don't have fun and quit. And they're like, I'm just, you know what I mean? They're not necessarily having an outrage. They're not mad at their raid leader. They're just playing the game. They end up somehow using the one button because they realize it's better, and then they stop having fun and they quit. And that's sort of what I'm worried about the most.
I think there are people out there that I've talked to that actually enjoy the one button rotation. Yes, it makes
absolutely. One thing I wanted to say in the interview too was it was great for me for alts. There was a leveling event and I wanted to level some characters, but I don't feel like setting up a UI or using them. I leveled up a hunter, I leveled up a warlock, I leveled up a rogue, I leveled up a warrior. I leveled up every class to 80 because why not? I can just use the one button and I do just as much damage as anyone else in those dungeons anyway.
No.
All right, skywriting. Skywriting is an interesting one. I also wanted to talk about drive, but we didn't end up talking about it. We didn't put it on the interview. I thought drive was actually really cool, and I want to see them integrate it more. But I think the areas which you can integrate it are more limited.
I think they keep designing zones around skywriting. It's like drive is kind of hard to make usable.
Exactly. It would be cool if they like do drive in like certain areas maybe, or make drive races. So one thing actually is some people in our Discord, it's like Evade and Twix and them, they were actually like competitively trying to do one of the drive races and like shave off time and like recording and stuff. And they actually got really, really good. And I was trying it as well and like using some of their techniques. It was pretty fun. I complained about drive earlier in a podcast and they actually talked to me about it. They're like, I think you just haven't put enough effort and like tried it and played it more. And I actually have a lot more fun using drive than I did in that previous one. Just like getting the intricacies down.
I think drive is not as polished as skywriting. This isn't like an integrated, game wide type thing for me. It's fun, but I think there's a level of jank that still exists. Like drifting would probably need to be separated into a different button rather than jump, because half the time you try to drift and you jump instead.
Yep.
It doesn't feel as polished. Like drifting feels a little odd in like skywriting. The second you tried it was an instant success. Drive, not so much. And that's why I think I would be hesitant to like, if it was, the default for all mounts, like ground mounts worldwide type thing.
Yeah, sure.
I think it's fun. I think they could maybe bring it back as like a Tindril thing. Tindril flight, but like, that's it. Whereas skywriting immediately, like end of expansion, we got a skywriting encounter that didn't suck. And now we have another skywriting encounter that hopefully will not suck. So. All right.
Any more thoughts? I'm looking. We already talked about the raid buff stuff a lot.
Tier sets.
The tier sets and I think that was kind of funny. I like that he asked us and we kind of like fed into his answer, but I think it did sort of make sense. Also, the required slots thing. Yeah, I don't know. He didn't really have much to say about that, but I think we all agree it was like kind of a lot.
I think the required slot stuff is hard to change in the middle of an expansion. I do think that's one of those things that like more feedback needs to be given. Personally, I think it is miserable having 6, 7, 8 slots on a patch just locked to like random stuff, and I'm just like, what?
I think it depends, because if you let's say you're locking your cloak, but he mentioned you're not going to get any cloaks. I think that's okay. But it just feels really bad when like you have your 4 set of tier and then you just get a bunch of tier pieces in your vault. That's when it feels really bad.
Yeah.
But as long as it's kind of like, not hitting your embellishment slots or kind of avoiding the really locked in slots, I think that's kind of okay. I don't mind it as much.
The thing that I don't like is that I think it makes raid gear feel even worse. Like in Classic, for example, you still have these sorts of things where they're like locked in slots where you're like, oh, this is your engineering helm or this is your rep thing or whatever. But all of those things are only pre-raid bis. And then as soon as you get into a raid and a helm drops, you're like, fuck yeah, I can get rid of this, right? But I feel like the problem is this embellishment slot is it's literally your bis for the entire, like you're in the mythic raid and your embellishment slot is like, you're never replacing that. Like bracers drop and no one cares. And all these, there's so many slots that no one cares about. I think that's one of the, like, I don't necessarily mind these embellishments and stuff existing as like, something you do in the first early weeks to gear up to prepare for the raid. But it feels bad when, okay, you finally kill the giant dragon in the raid and it drops these crazy bracers. And it's like, well, this is my embellishment and it's 1% damage gain. So I need to keep it on.
I'm okay with it in the end. Like, it's not great, but the fact that they're removing cloaks, like, I think will help.
Yeah, he definitely pointed out that they are alleviating some of the problems of like, okay, well, how do we make the gearing system not feel bad? The fact that cloaks are, not a thing.
It's less about, for me at least, it's less about like the drops of cloaks. It's more about like, it's cutting out like half of the gear progression.
Right.
And that to me feels really strange. That you
like the only thing better than killing the giant dragon with your friends is killing the giant dragon with your friends, and then you make your character stronger and you get an upgrade.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Like
and it's like
So say you have hero track boots from the Demon Hunter Council fight. You get myth track boots, and you're just like, I don't wear these, right? It's like the same thing. You're just like, these slots are completely non-slots now.
Yeah, like why can't the boot thing just be something that you have always, right? Like once you get those boots, yeah, exactly, like an enchant that you can, sort of like corruption is of okay, you do the things that you needed to do to get corruption, but now you can put it on any helm. Like why are there so many of those? Why can't you have your Rishi wraps as an enchant that you put on any cape, and then all of a sudden it's an artifact cape and it becomes the Rishi cape,
Yeah. That's it's kind of interesting. I don't know. I think that's probably something that they have to look at in the future. It's also probably, in my opinion, a byproduct of them trying to make professions more valuable. I mean, I remember for a while in BFA and Shadowlands and Legion, professions were literally nothing. And so like I think this is probably a consequence of them making professions better. I do wonder if
professions are
like, do we need fucking embellishments? Like this might sound insane. Most people would still wear profession gear regardless. In seasons that I didn't raid, I wore a lot of profession gear regardless. Do we really need embellishments?
I think it is popular with the non-hardcore crowd.
I guess, yeah.
Okay. Okay. Popular is a very strong word. I think it is interesting to the non. I think the non-hardcore crowd views it as cool pieces of gear, expensive cool pieces of gear. But it's just like something extra from that point of view. It's like, oh, I don't get just to craft this, but I get a little bit of extra stats too. That's like this cool little extra thing.
Do they like that it's their bis? I guess it's kind of an interesting...
I have no idea.
Okay.
That's my general vibe of it. Is it's a pretty nothing to the high-end crowd because we're just gonna have it anyways, and it's like kind of cool to the casual. So it's like a very slight win.
I also don't like crafting weapons.
I mean that's weird, but
there's just like a meta, there's like a meta as to like what you're supposed to craft and what order, and I'm just like, this is all nonsense.
Yeah, it's optimized out pretty heavily now, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably part of the reason where I'm just like, this is all.
I love the flowchart of like, dude, this season was a shit show because everyone was like, oh, you want to craft two-handed, but then the spark wasn't available. But then the spark was available if you exploited. And then they're like, oh, we're gonna fix that, but we're gonna make everybody the spark. So now you could have actually crafted a two-hander this week if you didn't already craft. But sorry, some of you already crafted.
Yeah, they gave us a spark on Friday.
That was so good. That was really good. that hopefully that gets fleshed. We didn't ask about that, but hopefully that gets fleshed out by next year.
I mean, I think like the big thing for me, like what I would want to know for the patch that we didn't really talk about is just kind of the standard, like, how much the keys going down, which the answer is probably just a complete reset. Are Valor Stones being reset? Like, what is the crest caps going to be? Like, what are the crest caps going to be on the first week? Like that kind of stuff, We
know Valor Stones aren't getting reset. I mean, they announced that.
Oh, sorry. Are Valor Stones going to be transferable after the season starts?
Oh God,
I assume so. Right?
You just opened Pandora's box. I didn't really consider that.
They said that Valor Stones were transferable only during Turbo Boost, which makes me think they were getting reverted, but they've never explicitly said it.
Oh, I think that would be really awkward for them to revert it, but I understand their concern there.
I mean, if they're not resetting, that's already a huge dub. So, like, I'll take any win with Valor Stones, man.
Valor Stones are true. The issue is, like, most of the time I don't even run into Valor Stones, and the times I do run into Valor Stones, it's like the worst thing that's happened to me. And
I've never had Valor Stone issues.
I've had it one time. It normally involves like upgrading a weapon, like that. It normally involves upgrading a weapon and getting like multiple upgrades at the exact same time. If you're not up, so a lot of people have this anxiety that they're going to make a mistake with their upgrades, and so they just hold off on upgrading, and then they try to upgrade all their pieces at the exact same time. And then for obvious reasons, they run out of Valor Stones because you're trying to upgrade 4 pieces at the same time. You goober, like that's how it happens.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we want to talk about?
I think we mentioned DK raid buff. I mean, that was the first thing. Mage Tower.
I had to talk about the AMZ thing in M+. I had my channel my inner dorky because he's been complaining about that. He's like, all people only think about raid, but like, okay, well now DK doesn't have a raid buff still, which hurts you in M+, and you're nerfing AMZ in M+, so it's like, what the hell? But dude, that was that was for dorky.
Warrior doesn't even talent rally in Mythic Plus because 10% stamina is so bad.
Yeah,
It's just so bad. 3-minute cooldown, 10% stamina. All right. Anything else?
No, that was a banger.
All
That was a
right.
banger.
No,
Shout out to Blizzard for lovingly
Yes,
giving
thank
us
you,
that
thank
interview.
you.
That was super cool.
yeah, we hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.